Alrighty, episode 295 of Backpacking America. Welcome back, everyone. So I wanted to hop on a little bit to talk about the presidential debate. So I was really, it did not disappoint, like, even remotely, because I was expecting Biden to get the floor mopped with him, but I didn't expect it to be like that bad. Now, in the spirit of neutrality, I'm going to critique both of them, and then I'm just going to clown on Biden. So, I was really disappointed because there was a point in the debate when Biden and Trump were just coming after each other for, over their golf swing, and Joe Biden was like, I'd like to see you carry your own bags in golf." And Trump was like, "I do carry my own bags and I have an 8 handicap." And Joe Biden was like, "Oh yeah, I have a 6. Like, they were having a dick measuring contest for the whole world. And it was just really silly and stupid. And I just, we deserve so much better as a people, and don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot of great things Trump did during his presidency, but I genuinely don't, I don't think he could have really made Biden look like a fucking moron. And don't get me wrong, he's the clear winner of that debate, like, hands down. But he could have really just been like, "You're bringing up a golf swing when millions of illegals are in our country committing crimes every day and destabilizing multiple states in the union? Really? It's more important than your golf swing, the security of the country." Like, he could have really just, like, absolutely hammered it home. And then Joe Biden was given a question, and I'm very pro-choice, as many of you know, and he was like, abortion, Trump did bad with abortion, and it was a horrible thing that he did. And then he went on to go on and on and on, and it ended up devolving into this incoherent rant about that girl that got killed in I think last week or 2 weeks ago. She was a 12-year-old girl that got murdered and brutally raped by 2 illegal immigrants, and he devolved into that. And then Trump was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what that guy said anyway." And it's just, Joe Biden looked incoherent and rambling. And some people will say, "Oh, well, he may be an old man and he may not be coherent, but it's what he stands for. That's what we're voting for." Okay, the guy can't lead the country. So ideals are great, but if you can't lead the country and you can't fulfill the duties of your job, then you're not going to get the job and you're not going to lead the country. I mean, people get fired from Taco Bell over less. You know what I mean? So it's like if you wouldn't trust someone to run a Taco Bell for showing up 2 minutes too late to work, but you expect Joe Biden to be okay with the presidency, even though he can't speak or form coherent sentences, we got some serious problems to look at. He and this is what's crazy too. Like, the world is looking at us, and the world is saying, "Wow, America's a joke. Let's take advantage of their weakness." We have Iran pushing us around. We have China pushing us around. We have the Houthi rebels launching missiles at trade ships and effectively making the Red Sea inaccessible. It's just really ridiculous. The debacle he's placed us in. And then we have a lot of illegal immigrants coming into the United States. We actually had 8 ISIS terrorists cross the border and get apprehended in New York. And they were actually planning to bomb the cricket match in, I believe it was on Long Island, the cricket match. And I mean, it's a good thing I didn't go to that. I mean, it didn't happen, but it's a good thing I didn't go, because my boy Steve was like, "Oh, do you want to come to the cricket tournament?" I'm like, nah, that's just not my thing. I don't like big events because terrorism. So I try to stay away from big events, and lo and behold, I was right. But then again, a broken clock is right twice a day. Anyway, enough of my paranoia. But back to the debate. The whole thing was really just was Biden stumbling over his words and then Trump insulting him. Now, what I didn't like is that both of them didn't answer the questions. They were very direct questions, and the rules of the debate were fair. Everything was a coin toss, like, meaning who started first, who got what podium, who opened, who closed. That was all a coin toss. Very fair. And then the mics were shut off when the other person was talking. So if Trump was talking, Biden's mic was shut off, and the only way you might hear Biden if he kept talking over him was like he'd come up in the background noise, like if I was over here. So it really wasn't it was really a fair debate, and there was no excuse to say, oh well, he was talking over me so I couldn't answer the question. Both men used the opportunity to rebuttal each other even when they were asked new questions. So say that the period of rebuttal was over and they moved on to the next topic, Trump would be like, I'd like to talk to him again about that abortion issue. You're da-da-da-da-da-da. And then Biden go, you had the morals of an alley cat. Ice cream. And that was pretty much like how the debate was, like in that 1 30-second snippet. And it was really disappointing to see, because I feel that, if Trump was to just answer the questions, you could fight back, just be like, listen, you're an idiot. Anyway, if he just did that, it would look a lot more respectful, because what I heard people saying down the middle is, oh, neither of them answered any questions, and we're between a geriatric and a geriatric. The anti-Israel lobby is like, great, we have two old people debating over who's going to send $20 billion to Israel. So to them, this election is meaningless, which is insane. I don't know how you're pro-Palestinian in 2024, but whatever. I genuinely am disappointed that both men couldn't put aside the bickering and just answer the fucking questions. And some of the questions that Trump were asked were very unfair. Trump was asked, if you lose the election, will you try to overturn it? And he didn't answer the question, which is great. Honestly, that's the only time I agree that you shouldn't answer that question, because no matter how he answered it, he was going to fuck himself. If he said, no, I'm not going to overturn the election, then he's going to lose a lot of the radical support in his base, and they're going to be like, oh, he's sold out, he's a pussy. If he says, yeah, I'm going to overturn the election, oh my God, he's an extremist, get him out of office, or prevent him from getting into office. If he said, listen, if I feel that, the election was not fair, I may contest it legally in the courts, that's still going to be viewed as, oh my God, he's an insurrectionist. So not answering that question actually helped him out a lot. They did ask him some very difficult questions beyond that. And they were just throwing Joe Biden softballs, and Joe Biden was still fucking them up. Now, just to shit on Joe Biden, he said, no troops died under my watch. They all died under your watch. Yet he forgot the 13 service members that died in Afghanistan during the pullout. Like, literally, like the last day in Afghanistan, we lost 13 people to a suicide bomber. And he seemed to have just let that lapse. I know he's an old man, but that's just really unacceptable. And Joe Biden tries to claim he's like this military guy, and he's big into the U.S. service because his son was an Air Force pilot, and blah, 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 blah. Who gives a shit? Well, not who gives a shit, but like, whatever. But like, not boo-hoo, but it's just like, there's so many people that like died in combat under Biden and got injured from Afghanistan that he just spit in their face pretty much. Like, there was like, what I'm trying to say is, great, your son was a service member, but that doesn't excuse you from like the bad things that you did towards other service members. Like, it's great that you care about your son and you're proud of your son's service to the country, and anyone serving their country should be appreciated and respected. But holy shit, dude. I mean, have some introspection a little bit. The guy went to a wounded Marine and said, what do you want? Like, got in his face and said, what do you want? Because the Marine's mother was like writing to Biden, like, hey, help us out. We can't pay these medical bills. Like, my son served this country. Like, we're having so much hard times. But like, please help, please help, please help. And that's what was said. And his mother was there when that happened. She went fucking ballistic. It's on, I saw it on Facebook the other day. The guy was giving like a 2-minute interview about it. It was really surreal to hear a president talk about one of our soldiers like that. He would be very short with other service members. He would just frequently not know where he was, just shake people's hands and leave. During the 80th anniversary of D-Day, he was very confused and ended up wandering away multiple times and had to leave early to get rest. And then Emmanuel Macron had to basically carry the whole event by himself, and it was very awkward, and he had to meet with American, French, British, and Canadian survivors of D-Day that are now nearing 100. I mean, it was in a day that was supposed to be special and commemorative, was just turned into such a geriatric display. And I don't know if I even would have liked Trump there, to be honest with you, because don't get me wrong, I think Trump is a very funny guy, but there's just something about him at like the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings that I just can't see him there. I mean, I would have rathered him there than Biden, don't get me wrong, but I would have felt much more prouder as an American if Obama or Bush was there than Trump or Biden, just because their essence is politicized. Everything they do is politicized and political and not apolitical, neutral, and American. It's just always like, I am a MAGA extremist or I am a socialist extremist. And there's like no delineation between the two, which really is disappointing. I mean, and Joe Biden, I can't even I'm not per se mad at him. And this is the funny part, because when Trump was in office in his first term, I hated Trump. I was very anti-Trump. And when he left office and I changed political sides, I guess, I realized I was like, okay, you know what? Some of his policies were really good, and a lot of the stuff said about him was just propaganda against him. And I realized that there's a lot to criticize about him, but there's also a lot to not criticize him over. The Joe Biden, he's not even in control. Like, my disdain for Joe Biden isn't really disdain for him. It's the people that are handling him, because I know he's just like a puppet. Like, he's not really making day-to-day decisions. It's really his advisors, his staffers, his wife, Obama. And I just, I feel bad for him almost. Like, if I saw Joe Biden in the street, I'd feel bad for him, because he's just genuinely he has dementia. He's a demented old man, and he just needs to sit down and eat some fucking ice cream with his grandchildren at a safe and respectable distance so he doesn't have sex with them. And, just leave him there and just give him some fucking ice cream and let him die of a heart attack in the next 6 months. I mean, just seriously. He's so old. Let him live. If his wife had any compassion for her husband, she would just, she would be like, Joe, pull out of the race. Now, the Democrats, after his abysmal performance, live on air, literally 60 seconds after the fact, came out and were like, yeah, we're going to encourage the president to not run, and we're going to try to field someone else. That's pretty much what was going on. And some people were like, oh, Gavin Newsom, and some others were like, oh, RFK is making a comeback. And, when I look at Newsom and what he did, that guy's a fucking moron. I'm going to be real. He destroyed California. All the illegals are coming in through California now. The homelessness is out of control. The drug problems are out of control. The absolute disregard for the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the First Amendment in that state is abhorrent, and he would apply it on a national level. He actually wants to pass a constitutional amendment to limit the Second Amendment, which doesn't even make any sense. You can't pass an amendment to limit an amendment, because then you have conflicting. You can pass an amendment to get rid of an amendment, but you can't. I don't even know if you can, to be honest with you. It's just so weird. He's like, oh, we're gonna limit what type of firearms you could have, and da da da. But here's the problem: the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. So you cannot infringe upon it. It literally says it in the text. You can't make another amendment that infringes upon the thing that says it cannot be infringed upon. And this is the problem. We are a law and legal-based society, and we're now in a society where the law is being politicized and has been politicized since COVID. So And that was under Trump's watch. You know, a lot of people that are anti-vax, anti-mask, and all that, they forget that Donald Trump imposed mask mandates, imposed vaccine mandates. He actually researched the vaccine under Operation Warp Speed. And you know, the people in the Trump camp will say, "Oh, well, Pfizer created the bad vaccine." And yeah, Pfizer did create the vaccine. Its efficacy and its side effects are still are just starting to be understood. But Trump created it. Trump put it under Operation Warp Speed. Trump put in the mandates. Trump. That was all Trump's thing. Biden picked up the slack. Just like, you know, Trump was ordering the and listen, Biden, when he rolled it out and he did all this other stuff, it ended up being culty on that end with respect to science. It ended up being culty on that end with his campaign. Trump put in the Afghanistan pullout. Biden made it absolutely worse. Would Trump have made it better? I don't know. I don't think he would have left $8 billion worth of equipment, though. So that's another thing that has to be taken into consideration. It's a very, very sad and depressing situation when we have to pick between these two guys. I would rather Trump than Biden any day because I know he's going to respect the Constitution. He put in a Supreme Court that, while everyone says it's extremist, it's actually quite balanced. And it's probably been the most balanced in my memory. And the reason why is because you will have conservatives break from their party and their ideology to advocate for the law. In some cases, and when I say conservative and liberal, I don't mean politically, I mean legally. The conservative meaning of the law with the Constitution means originalist. What does the Constitution literally and originally say in the context of 1776 to this? So, you know, there's times where the conservative justices will vote, like with the abortion case, it has to go to the states because this is a states issue. It's not explicitly enumerated in the Constitution, which Ruth Bader Ginsburg did point out in the immediate aftermath of the Roe decision when it was first passed. And the Democrats, when they had a majority in 2012 in the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and the judiciary, they didn't codify it into law. So they fucked up. The Democrats are the reason that Roe v. Wade got overturned. And when you look at other decisions, like the Chevron decision was overturned. That's a big deal. It was, federal agencies are not explicitly enumerated in the Constitution, and they cannot make laws. They have essentially been made lawmakers under the Chevron decision. And now Congress actually has to make laws to restrict or enhance constitutional rights instead of leaving it up to these organizations like the Federal Communications Commission. Fuck them. The ATF. Fuck them. The Department of Education, the FEC. I forgot what they're called. The Federal Elections Commission or Education. I don't fucking know. I only know the FCC and the ATF because I hate both of them. And then, you know, you have decisions where you have Amy Coney Barrett siding with the liberals, and you have Brett Kavanaugh siding with the liberals. So, you know, the originalists, the conservatives, are actually, you can tell the way a Supreme Court case is going to because it's every other. So one ruling will be a conservative originalist. The next one will be liberal and new age. And it'll just kind of like ebb and flow between the two. Like if you have a conservative ruling one day, it's going to be a liberal ruling the next. It's just going to be ridiculous. But I like that because it's fair. It's predictable, and you can really see the court isn't as one-sided as it was made out to be when these justices were put in by Trump. And I think they even ruled, I'm not sure yet, I probably shouldn't speak on it, but I think they even ruled that Trump can't pardon himself when he's president. And those guys were put there by Trump. So if that's actually true and that was ruled upon, I know they were definitely ruling on it when this information was brought to me. If they rule that Trump can't pardon himself, that court is unbiased. That court is unbiased and the Constitution is actually being respected. So I encourage everyone to read the Federalist Papers, which is the intellectual justification to the American people for the current U.S. Constitution that was ratified, and I believe in 1797, because we had the Articles of Confederation before, and that was not working. So read the justification for the Constitution, then read the Constitution itself, and then you'll start to understand why these Supreme Court cases fall the way they fall. Trump, that's the one thing Trump did a really good job with, is appointing justices that, in my opinion, are very neutral, or at least try their best to be. And, for Biden, on the other hand, like, he did some cool stuff, like with the SAVE plan, with student loan forgiveness. I think that's really great too. Mostly because I have college loans. And here's the thing too, like, I see a lot of people, and I get it if you're a tradesperson and you really don't like that. College loans have started to be forgiven. First off, I like to preface by saying I think all the people in trades programs that went into debt or had to take out loans, I think that should also be forgiven too, because the trades are just as important. Is white collar college education just as much as blue collar college education or apprenticeships. I think it's really great though, because student loan debt is very high and a lot of kids are forced into it. I knew a lot of kids when I was in college, and their parents either were A, going to kick them out of the house if they didn't go to college, or B, they were pretty much pressured into taking out the loans themselves, and they had no guidance, and their parents didn't want to give them guidance, and they were pretty much just guilt tripped into going to college. A lot of kids, that was the fate of a lot of kids, where they didn't want to go, they wanted to do a trade, they wanted to just work a regular job, and they were forced into it. So a lot of parents, pressed their kids one way or another into going to college, and some parents, they told their kids, like, if you want to get a job, you got to move out. You want to work at Taco Bell for 3 years? Okay, get out of my house. Oh, you want to be a tradesman? Over my dead body. Get out of my house and have fun with your apprenticeship. I swear to God. So, when we hear about student loan forgiveness, one, feel bad for them. Seriously, feel bad for the people that were in college, especially under those conditions, because I knew a lot of them, and a lot of them should not have been in college, and they know they shouldn't have been in college. Two, to the parents, please stop forcing your kids to go to fucking college if they genuinely don't want to go or don't have the grades to go. Just let them find their own path. Give them support. Try to push them in a direction. Don't just let them lapse. But Jesus Christ, I mean, if the kid doesn't want to go to college, be like, okay, what about trade school? What about a job here, or doing this, or get this certification? Do something, but just, leave the world open. There's so much you could do in this world. I was just so that's why I get irritated when some people are like, oh, well, they're a bunch of spoiled communist brats. Most of those kids that you see with the blue hair at the Palestine protests and shit, that's like 1% of the population. I used to be a college activist. I was 1% of that population. Like, most college kids care about drinking, fucking, and doing drugs and passing their classes. That's it. Like, and then maybe doing good at their side job so they can get some extra cash going. That's pretty much it. Most college kids don't give a fuck about anything else. Please do not group all of those kids in with the 1% that make it miserable for everyone else. And, then there's the constitutional debate about loan forgiveness. Can the president use an executive order? I don't know. I know that loan forgiveness was shot down by Congress and the Supreme Court, but I also know that now they're now reviewing the SAVE plan, so that could affect a lot of people too, where, oh, hey, my loans were forgiven. Oh, wait, no, they're not. Now, I don't know. I think Trump said something about also like forgiving, like taking back forgiveness on loans and reissuing them. I don't know if that's going to actually happen or if that can happen, but it's really that's really bad, because now you're going to have people that think their loans are forgiven, and then they're going to go buy a house, or they're going to make a car, purchase a new car, or they might get a little bit nicer apartment, and then they're going to get hit with this, and then they can't afford it. I think it's going to really ruin the economy if that does happen. So, I would hope that that's false, or I'm misunderstanding something, but if it's the way I've been told it's going to happen, it's going to be devastating. Anyway, for 2024, it's going to be a very tight election. It's going to be rough. People are still going to vote for Biden because a lot of Democrats are still connected to the Democratic ideals. I heard some Democrats today when I was walking in town talking about how mean and nasty Trump was, but how awful and senile Biden was. And, it's just, at least they can now admit that about Biden, but it's gonna be very interesting to see the actual election results. I think Trump's gonna win this hands down. He murdered Joe Biden at that debate, and his Twitter account is run horribly. Joe Biden's, calling Trump a man that has the morals of an alley cat is so 1930s oriented. Like, this is 2024, not 1924. That is so, that's just corny. That is genuinely corny and very old manish. And I know the guy is 80 something, but I relate more to Trump than I do Biden. And Trump is a multi-billionaire and old as fuck. And I relate more to that guy than I do to Biden. And by that, I mean, I could have a beer with Trump, and he'll say some out-of-pocket shit that I'm not going to like, but we could laugh about it. You know what I mean? It's just like with Biden, it's like he'll sniff a little girl and then go on an incoherent tangent about beating up some black kid at a pool. It's just like, I can't deal with it. And so then there was something, apparently Trump said black jobs or something like that during the debate. That part I didn't catch. And the way I'm looking at the way that was said was illegal immigrants are taking jobs, and Trump was trying to appeal to the black base and saying they're taking black jobs, and it was totally misconstrued by the woke crowd, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's saying black jobs are manual labor that no one wants to do," which is not true. It's he was just trying to appeal to the black voter base and the black community, and backfired because, he's not. The guy's a multi-billionaire and he's almost 80. Of course he's going to not relate to people. But the funny thing about that is no one is covering that gaffe whatsoever. And everyone's just focusing on how old and fucking senile Biden is. That's how bad Biden was, that his own party's turning against him. In the immediate aftermath of the debate, Gavin Newsom was blasted on the mainstream news by a liberal commentator for allowing state to turn to a shit show, and Newsom was stunned by that. They're actively running negative press against Biden now on CNN and NBC, and all of the liberal pundits are switching up, be it online or in the mainstream media. They're all switching up on Biden. So that gaffe about black people, non-existent. The golf thing was seen as just a funny moment to make Biden look like a fucking moron. Biden is so cooked because now his own media apparatus is against him. Anyway, I'm getting fidgety right now because this coffee is finally kicking in and I have some stuff to do. So thank you again for listening to another episode of Backpacking America. And until next time.